going on, nerds and bandits? It's your boy Noel from NCU, back at it again with another video, and back at it again with another NCU Reviews, where I give you my thoughts on past and present movies, anime, shows, and wrestling matches. And for today's entry, I'll be talking about the third installment in the Merc with the Mouth story, Deadpool and Wolverine, and bring you the good, the bad, some questions that I had after watching the movie, and of course, my rating on the film. The way I do my ratings is on 3 different scales. It goes from must see in theaters, being the best, Tuesday watch party, being average, and streaming service slumber, being the worst. Look at this as rating things from 1 to 3 stars, with 3 being the best. To also reiterate, this video will contain some spoilers for the film, so please keep that in mind. These reviews are also based on my first reactions to the film in question, and not a deep dive into all aspects. That's something I will probably save for later after watching whatever film more than once. Nevertheless, if you like these reviews and the other content that I post on my channel, then superhero land on that like button, subscribe to the NCU channel, and turn on post notifications so that you can stay up to date whenever I upload. Doing this shows me how much you enjoy the longer and higher quality videos that get produced, helps me reach more viewers who are interested in this type of content, as well as lets me know what you all like and like to talk about. And of course, you can always leave suggestions in the comment section below, and if the idea is really interesting, I'll be sure to make a video about it and shout you out for the idea. But with all of that out of the way, let's get into the reason why you clicked on this video. Deadpool and Wolverine, movie review, let's talk about it. So I would say going into this film, I was skeptical about how Disney would handle the R rating. After all, we've seen some deaths and small amounts of swearing throughout their films, but nothing to the magnitude that Deadpool brings. I am pleased to say that they stayed true to what it means to have an R-rated superhero film. Whether it was the very explicit jokes they were making, to the F-bombs that were dropped more often than mimic tears being summoned for a boss battle, the rating was justified. The comedy in this film was top-notch, with all of the poking fun at Fox as well as the current state of the world. I also really liked how they incorporated Disney humor into it and referenced what they could and couldn't say. The comedy wasn't just for the fourth wall breaks, as you can see it happen within the fights and even the heartfelt moments as well. This also extends to the amazing fight choreography that was shown, whether Deadpool was fighting the other baddies or Wolverine himself. This leads to my next point, being the chemistry between Hugh Jackman and Ryan Reynolds is impeccable. Be that when they were fighting to the comedy that was shared between the two of them, you could tell that their friendship came through in this film. There were even a nice amount of heartfelt moments that were shared between them based on each individual's story and journey that they were taking. Being how Wolverine disappointed himself as well as the rest of the X-Men, and how Deadpool just wants to matter within this world. And of course, with them coming together in the end to not only save the timelines, but also defeat a large amount of Deadpool variants that were thrown their way. One thing that I felt they did really well was a tie-in to the MCU. What you saw in the trailers as well as the film itself is that Deadpool is dealing with the TVA, which we were first introduced within the Loki series. Although this TVA has nothing to do with Kang because reasons. Nevertheless, in the film, we see a private sector of the TVA that is doing some under-the-table operations that aren't approved by the main branch. And of course, have a timeline destroyer for universes they believe won't last. One of the biggest highlights of this that made everyone in the theater jump with excitement is the cameos that this film had. When I tell you that the level of excitement in that theater was comparable to seeing Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire returning as Spider-Man in No Way Home. We got to see Chris Evans return as the Human Torch, Jennifer Gardner return as Elektra, and my favorite from the whole film, Wesley Snipes returning as Blade. We even saw Juggernaut from the original X-Men films, X-23 from the Logan film, as well as Azazel from First Class. For those who just got into Marvel films during the period of the MCU, just know that these were the OGs of live-action superhero movies. Seeing the actors and actresses reprise their roles even for a short moment brought a nice amount of nostalgia to the film, while also not overshadowing or relying on them to keep the film great. What shocked me was the fact that we finally saw Channing Tatum as Gambit. His solo film was rumored to be in the works for so many years and going through so many rewrites, and just to see him finally in this role was exciting. Hopefully, we get to see more of him going forward. And for the final good, I'm glad that they didn't do too much with this film. I tempered my expectations of this film considering how the MCU has been going lately, and I believe we can all agree that the multiverse saga hasn't been the greatest. Marvel not only decided to keep this within the story without fully affecting what they have already established in the MCU, but even called out their shortcomings. Having Deadpool tell, well, the other Deadpools how things have been confusing and overall not up to par with the original path that started it all was good for the fans to hear. It was somewhat of a confirmation that the multiverse saga is over, and if not 100% over, then it will be overhauled in order to be great again. Overall, a lot of positives with this film, but of course, nothing is truly perfect. If I'm being honest, the bad that I had with this movie was more so nitpicky. One thing that has been brought up multiple times about the multiverse saga is why they haven't addressed the giant celestial sitting in the middle of the ocean. I honestly enjoyed the Eternal movies, though I thought it would have worked better as a TV show, but there were a lot of things that Deadpool could have addressed while he was in the TVA room. We see in the film that he did watch certain scenes from other Marvel films, and even in the end credits scene, he went back to the TVA room to prove a point. I was more so surprised that nothing Eternals was mentioned, especially since that movie ended with a giant celestial standing over Earth to take some of the Eternals away. You would think if Deadpool was calling anything out when it comes to the MCU, he would have probably addressed that. I think another issue that I had was the fact that it seemed like Marvel couldn't keep the lid on Lady Deadpool and X-23 from their trailers. It didn't ruin the experience of watching the film, but it certainly would have been better if they had kept that as a surprise. Classic Man D, another content creator that I enjoy the content of, brought this up perfectly in one of his shorts on the movie where it seemed that Marvel didn't have that much faith in the film, so they were trying to build up more hype for it. Mind you, they already got extreme hype because of the popcorn buckets as well as the Xbox controllers. I should definitely know when it comes to that popcorn bucket. I currently work at a movie theater and had to find a way to get my own before they sold out. But back to the topic at hand. Imagine that for Spider-Man No Way Home, they showed Andrew Garfield in the trailer talking with Tom Holland. Like, people would have still been excited to see it, but it also kills some of the surprise and anticipation that people had within them. But I believe that may be the only bads that I had with this film. Some more may come up later the more that I watch this film, but it overall wasn't anything overbearing that made me dislike this movie as a whole. So before we get into the final rating of this film, I want to bring up some questions that I had while watching this movie. And of course, if you stayed this long, please hit that like button and share it with your friends. And of course, let me know if you had any questions at all about this film, as well as what you think the answers were to the questions that I bring up. Without further ado, let's get started. So, question 1. Who all from the Fox films are still alive? The reason I asked this is because Chris Evans' Human Torch brought up how he was sent to the Void, and Elektra notes that you either comply with the TVA or you get sent to the Void. So I was wondering, are there other heroes from the Fox films that are still alive? If so, who? I personally believe that the original Fantastic Four are still there and maybe even Ben Affleck's Daredevil, but maybe some of the other X-Men are still out there as well. Question number 2. Who's going to be there in Secret Wars? This piggybacks off the previous question, considering that the Secret Wars comic brings so many characters together to fight each other on Battleworld. And this has me wondering what Fox characters, as well as MCU characters, will come together in this film. Will we get to see Elektra, Blade, X-23, or even Gambit in the film? Will Henry Cavill sit there and actually play a different variant of Wolverine and be in this film as well? Only time will tell, and this question will be answered in 2026 when the Avengers film releases. Question 3. How did the X-Men die? So this question came to me when Wolverine brought up how he failed Professor X and the X-Men by not joining them, resulting in their deaths. He also brought up how the humans had something to do with it, which of course led me to 2 different options on how they were even taken down. Option 1 was that the X-Men were taken down by Bastion, especially with what we saw in X-Men 97. He's already shown how much of a problem he was in the animated show, and there is a chance that he could have been the threat of Wolverine's universe. And option 2, and my personal favorite option, is that what took out the X-Men was Nimrod. For those who don't know, Nimrod is essentially a super sentinel. With the humans creating sentinels in order to take out mutants, Nimrod could at some point have been created and then be the one to take down the X-Men. No matter what the option is, I hope they dive into this more if Hugh Jackman decides to stay in this role. You know, because Disney probably has him under contract until he's 90. Question number 4. Why didn't the Avengers recruit Deadpool? So the obvious answer for this is that he's too silly, kills all the time, and doesn't come off as the hero type. One reason I felt a way about this though is that in the films, Infinity War took place in 2017, and when Deadpool finally met with Happy, it was 2018. We technically did have Hawkeye going around killing other people as Ronin, and though Deadpool is much more violent, I would have figured that with his abilities he could have been useful in some way. Even if you want to talk about his personality, it took 5 years before the events of Endgame, which means that he would have had enough time to get accustomed to everything before the final battle. And to get to my final question, what's next for Marvel? This seems like the most asked question whenever a new MCU film comes out. I asked this question though because Deadpool is technically back in his universe and not in the MCU. Sure, he may show up in Secret Wars, but will we start getting the X-Men characters in the MCU before that? Also, what does Deadpool do to where Thor is holding him as if he were dying? He brings this up a lot in the TVA, and it has me believing that he sacrifices himself while Thor is trying to fight the Beyonder, or someone who just got confirmed recently, Doctor Doom. This reveal got announced this year at Comic-Con, and not only is the 2026 movie going to be titled Avengers Doomsday, but Robert Downey Jr. will be playing Doctor Doom himself. Scrolling through all of social media, I saw that fans were both excited and somewhat frustrated. Sure, we love RDJ considering how great his role was as Iron Man, and I believe he will be an amazing villain, but was he the right choice? The meme that is going around right now is, all down my timeline, I see nothing but the meme of Robert's face on Thanos' body saying,
"You could not live with your own failure." Where did that bring you? Back to me.
I can admit that it does feel like a legacy pool and that Marvel is grasping at whatever they can to get the MCU back on track. But hopefully this direction goes better than the Kang direction. And when I say that, I'm talking in relation to the MCU, not any outside cases. But we won't know for another few years. I just want to see how some of the other MCU characters who have seen Tony's face will react to his lookalike being a villain. Overall, I love Deadpool and Wolverine. It had a great blend of comedy, action, and nostalgia. It brought that edge to the MCU for those who said that it was too kiddie, and hopefully this film lets Disney know that they can loosen the reins a bit to let these characters be who they truly are. So with that being said, I'm giving this film a must-see in theaters. But that about does it for this installment of NCU Reviews. If you agree with my rating, leave a like and share with a friend. If you don't, still leave a like and comment what your thoughts were on the film. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the page, and turn on post notifications so you never miss out on any of my uploads. Thank you all so much for watching up until the end of this video, and I'll see you on the next one.